You're watching Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO. And now, here's two guys who just can't play enough trombone champ, Evan and Joe.
I'm Joe Ticotsky down in New Haven, Connecticut.
And I'm Evan McFarlane here in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, Canada, where it just decided that fall is upon us.
Yes, and this is the 44th episode of Mick and T Sports Report. And as Mark said in the opening, we just can't play enough trombone champ. Have you ever heard of the game?
I have heard of it, and oddly enough, when Guitar Hero and Rock Band first came out was back when I was in university, and that was probably my minor at university. I majored in poli-sci, minored in rock
band. In fact, I was reading an article about it, and they said someone described it as a drunk guitar hero.
There you go. That's also just called Guitar Hero to me.
So check out Trombone Champ. Of course, I'd never heard of it, and then I just Googled it. And we have a nice new fall-themed background from Doug and the boys at W4C Graphics. But I had a few other options because people were saying, you should have a more homey background. So check these out. Let's see. There's one of them.
Okay. Yeah.
With the Yale banner in the back, and those days on the campus of Yale. I remember them like they were yesterday. And there's another one, and it's amazing when you just take a walk through a nice hotel lobby what you can find. And there's another one. There's, if you see in the background, there's the old team picture from the.
Hey, that's your childhood basketball on the shelf.
Exactly. So. We'll see if maybe in the future I'll do that. But for now, we'll stick to this. Interesting news story from around Canada. A 14-year-old girl from Canmore, Alberta, named Adele Sanford, has been playing golf for less than 1 year, and she had 2 hole-in-ones in the same round, which is crazy. I know you've had a hole-in-one, correct?
I have 2, but they were not in the same round.
Okay.
But I know people who have been playing for longer than I've been alive who don't have one. So when they hear this story, they're going to be very, very upset.
Yeah. I have one. It was the 14th hole in the Berlin Turnpike with the spinning wheel, and the ball went in and it got stuck. And mini golf, it's a little bit easier, but. Well, coming up next, it's part 2 of our interview with Toronto Raptors radio announcer Paul Jonesy Jones. We hope you're enjoying the official October episode of Mick and T Sports Report here on CHCO-TV. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome back to Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. Last month, you saw part 1 of our interview with Raptors radio play-by-play announcer Paul Jonesy Jones, and he was kind enough to give us some more time. So let's welcome back our man, Paul Jones.
Paul, and Joe, it's okay. I answer to both because my mother gets it. She's 95. She still has all her wits about her, but she calls me Mark, and when Mark comes to visit, she calls him Paul, and we just answer to both. So it's okay.
All right. I'm in good company then.
Yes, you are.
During the bubble season a few years ago, in the beginning of COVID, did you broadcast games from Toronto in the studio? And if you did, how tough was that compared to in person?
Every game was from the studio, Joe, because the team was in Tampa. And it's tough. It's you're at the mercy of what the TV shows you, as opposed to being in the arena where you can really paint the picture. You can be the eyes and ears of people that can't see when you're doing the games on the radio like that. I have a gentleman out in Western Canada who's the president of the Canadian Blind Sports Association, and he's my best critic. He gives me the best feedback. And there are nights when he says to me, I get a text or a Twitter message from him, direct message saying, Jonesy, I could do everything but smell the popcorn tonight. Thank you for your descriptors. It was great. And that's what I like about the play-by-play side. You asked me last month, Joe, That's what I like about the play-by-play side of radio. You can really paint the picture about everything, to the guy's shoes, or his waist-high dribble with his shorts drooping just above his knee. Like, you can just paint a real good picture. So it's tougher when you're not in the arena. You don't have that same kind of feel.
Now, is there a person there to help out and say, like, hey, Jonesy, just so you know, this, and this is going on that you may not be able to see from the studio?
We had a camera, Joe, that had what we call the all 10. So it was a constant shot of everything that was going on in the court, regardless of what the TV was showing. So if a player was injured and went down behind the play, we could still see it and say, hey, Joe ran into the stanchion. He's still down at the other end of the court. And we tried to, give people as much as we could without actually being in the venue.
Gotcha. Evan?
That's a pretty accurate description. Joe does run into things a lot and goes down. I think it's just an excuse for his stamina to not quite be there anymore. But you've seen a lot of people go through the Raps fall. We've talked about kind of how they had a team that wasn't really an NBA team, and then you've seen championship teams. Maybe give me two of your favorite players that you've got to deal with. Maybe one from the earlier years and then one more recently.
I'll go three, Ev.
Okay.
Past, kind of middle, and present. And the past, my favorite was Mighty Mouse, Damon Stoudemire, who just had the heart of a lion and didn't understand he was on an expansion team and it was okay to lose. I remember after a 6-game losing streak, somebody asked him what he learned from losing. He goes, "Nothing, man. Losing sucks." And Damon played really hard, and I really enjoyed covering Damon. And then towards the middle years, I got close to the team when Vince was on it, and Vince was, that was like being with the Beatles. Like, it was like traveling with a rock star, man. He was it. NBC was changing its national TV schedule to put Vince Carter on a Sunday afternoon, and he was giving you 51-point games against the Phoenix Suns, and he led the All-Star voting from Canada. He wasn't in New York or LA or a major US center. And there was no prominent internet voting at the time. Vince Carter was it. And then I would have to say recently, in the championship years, it was really great to follow Kyle Lowry. He's a guy that left it out all on the floor, and for every small guy, he showed you what it's like, or what you have to do to compete as a smaller guy in a big man's league.
Yeah.
Now, changing gears, we told the story quickly last time of when I was running our basketball camp in August in St. Andrews, and all of a sudden a gentleman walks in who I had no idea who he was, and it was Jonesy, who was in town for the fundraising golf tournament that was connected to the world's oldest basketball court. Since it was your first time in St. Andrews, why don't you give our viewers a quick Paul Jones TripAdvisor review of the area?
Well, first of all, to Joe, to you and Evan, tip of the cap, because anybody that's spending time with kids and teaching them the game, you guys are caretakers for the game, and you just, you're there in the hot summer in a gym with all these kids. And I said 25, 30 years ago, those kids would have been in a power skating camp or a hockey camp, and it's great to see them in a basketball camp. So tip of the cap to you and Evan and everybody. I met all the other counselors at the camp. I got a lot of love for you and a lot of time teaching the game like that. So, boy, I hope to be back in St. Andrews next year at the same time of the camp and have my shoes, bring my sneakers with me, and get in on a session and help with some teaching. But I just love the area. Spectacular golf course. Number 12 reminds people, if you look at it, it's Pebble Beach East. It's just, and the people are so friendly. I've always heard about how friendly people are on the East Coast. I've been to Halifax, I've been to Nova Scotia, but I'm definitely coming back to New Brunswick. Just spectacular scenery, lovely people, and just lots to do in such a small center to connect you with people. I really, really enjoyed it, and it won't be my last trip.
Yeah, it's definitely Evan's been there his whole life. I've sort of become my home away from home, and you're preaching to the converted for here, that's for sure. Evan, you have another one?
Yeah, and just to tail off that last little bit too, with that tournament, I just think that we're just touching the tip of the iceberg on how big that's going to get. I mean, with you guys coming this year, and it ignited some fire underneath of Tom Liston, who already has a huge desire for this, but I think we're going to blow that thing up next year. But on top of that, how cool was it for you to step into the world's oldest basketball court located in St. Stephen?
I'm a historian, Evan. Like my partner and my kids always said, Dad, you're going to die with useless information in your head, because I'm a trivia buff. And that was very moving to stand on the world's oldest court, the way I love the game and what the game has done for me and places it's taken me. So Tom Liston, I know Tom, and he knows I'm all in everything that they want to do around a museum and trying to resurrect everything around there. I'm on the board with Canada Basketball, the board of directors. I've gone to our board and said, we've got to get Canadian games, Team Canada to the East Coast so our people can see them. We're looking for a different, a central wing of a Hall of Fame, a physical wing on the West, could be out in Vancouver or Victoria, and somewhere in the East. And I just think, the world's oldest basketball court is just a natural fit for having an East wing of the Canada Basketball Hall of Fame.
It is. And as I mentioned a few times on the show, I first went down there when it was still a vocational center, and someone told me about it, and they brought me upstairs, and the woman had to move the clothing racks to sort of show me around there.
Yeah.
And then to see what it's become is they're certainly on their way. Well, before we get you out of here, what I wanted to ask before, and I forgot, what's your favorite opponent's arena to call a game from? I'm sure there, like with everything, there are places where you'd say, this place is tough to do a game from, don't like it, this place, can't wait to get back.
Some of my favorites, I'll give you some of my top. When I started in the NBA, we were on the floor in every location. We're only on the floor in 5 spots right now. One of them, thankfully, is Toronto, but I like doing games in Phoenix. The old Madison Square Garden had us just above the previous location, just above an exit sign in the in like the foyer. That was really solid to be there. Right now, one of my favorites is Portland, because you can stand. You're at the bottom of the lower bowl. You can stand. Roll up your sleeves and kind of call it like you're, calling a football game from up top. It's always fun to be in LA and stargaze. And, there's something about being in Boston, even though the location might be one of the worst, there's still something about being in a place like the Garden that has that kind of history with the team.
Yeah. Now, when you were at the old Garden, did you get interrupted by all the cigarette smoke that used to be wafting through the air?
At the old place, when I first started 25 years ago, yeah, we were courtside, and it was terrible for your health, but you just had to embrace all the stuff that was going on with it.
That is neat. Well, he's Paul Jonesy Jones, the radio play-by-play announcer for the Toronto Raptors, Canada's team. And Jonesy, the two of us really can't thank you enough for coming on our show. In this winter, I promised to listen to you online to your radio calls, because by December, my New York Knicks will be pretty much out of it. So I'll have some free listening time.
You never know, Joe. And let me know when you are listening, so we'll send you a shout out over the radio, my friend.
Awesome.
That's great. But we just really appreciate you giving us all this time. And it was great meeting you, and we look forward to seeing you back next summer.
See you next summer, fellas.
All right, Jonesy, looking forward to it. Thank you.
We'll be back after this short break, and you are watching Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO-TV in St. Andrews.
It's time for another edition of Small Town Spotlight here on Mick and T Sports Report. A quick reminder that our show airs on Monday and Friday nights at 8 p.m. Atlantic time and Thursdays at 7:30 anywhere in the world at CHCO.TV. regionally on Channel 26 if you're watching over-the-air television, and on various cable systems throughout Canada. And if you miss any of those airings, you can check out the show 24/7 on CHCO's YouTube channel. For this edition of Small Town Spotlight, we head to Iqaluit, the capital city of the territory of Nunavut. With a population of 7,429, it's the largest and only city in Nunavut, and it's the smallest of any capital city in Canada. While the territory of Nunavut only has a population of 39,000, it is 2.5 times the size of the state of Texas. To tell us more about the area, let's welcome in Trevor Wright, the Iqaluit bureau reporter for the Nunavut News. Trevor, welcome to the show.
Hi there. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, before we get going, how about a quick temperature check up there today?
Yeah, it is -2 actually. Yesterday we got our first freezing. Like, it gets colder earlier up here, so yeah, it just recently started freezing.
Okay, and just for our viewers, this is being taped in late September, as Rod Stewart sang, and that's even Fahrenheit, that's still below 32. Now, back in July, there's a pretty historic event that took place when the Pope made a visit to Iqaluit. Now, as a reporter, were you right there able to cover it?
Yes. I was mostly in the public section of the Pope's visit. There was a lot of people who came into town along with the Pope. It was very interesting. I got to meet like a few journalists who kind of tagged along on the Pope's plane, and there was also like a few notable, I guess, interesting Indigenous personalities who were also among the Pope's entourage. There was a lot of people who suddenly came into town, like just for the evening, basically. The Pope flew in like in the afternoon, and then he left around 7 or 8. But yeah, lots of people who came to town that day.
Okay, and that was where he was making his apologies throughout for the residential schools.
Yeah. A good chunk of his apology was kind of like a private setting within an elementary school here. There wasn't any media. It was just kind of the Pope and meeting with a bunch of elders, and then I guess for the latter half, he made a few speeches and whatnot publicly, like just outside the school.
Okay, interesting.
It was a very private occasion, I suppose.
Yeah, it's good that it wasn't, overdone with publicity and things like that. Now, we talked briefly off air about and I apologize if I'm pronouncing this wrong, the Iqaluit language, which is spoken in the area. Are there still many people in the area that speak the language?
In the capital of Iqaluit, I would say it's about 50-50. There's a lot of government workers who kind of fly up, a lot of teachers, a lot of, I guess, professionals who kind of who don't quite speak the language in Iqaluit, but for the majority of Nunavut's 25 communities, I would say that's the majority language. It's thriving a lot more compared to other Indigenous languages in Canada. It's still very much used in everyday life.
Okay, tough. Do you speak it?
No. I am Inuit or Unuk. That's the singular saying. Inuit is plural, but I am Inuit on my dad's side. But I grew up speaking English with my mom's family in Yellowknife. Okay. So that was kind of I somewhat look the part, but once I start talking to people, then they can hear that I'm from somewhere else. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick read, I suppose, for a lot of locals here.
I'm guessing if I was there, they'd tell right away that I was not speaking the language. Switching gears over to sort of the art scene in the area, is it true that in the entire territory, which I had mentioned before, is 2.5 times the size of Texas. Is it true there's only one movie theater in all of Nunavut?
Yes, there is the Astro Theater here in Iqaluit. They they regularly play movies, and yeah, they're a great little movie theater, and but there are outdoor drive-in screenings in other places. Like this summer there was a screening of the movie Flashback that was filmed in Nunavut, and the people in Rankin Inlet, that's kind of more in central Nunavut, and they just had a drive-in movie theater type screening. And like there's only one movie theater, but communities can kind of get together and organize little events such as that drive-in screening.
Sure. Sure. Okay. And lastly, on our small town spotlight segment, I always ask our guests for a local restaurant recommendation. So give me your favorite.
I do like going to a place here called Yummy Shawarma. You can't go very wrong with a nice doner wrap, especially if it tastes good. There's also a little cafe here I often go to. It's called Blackheart. It's they make like lattes, coffee, breakfast sandwiches, that kind of thing. Like it's also a nice little cafe. Also, to go back in the summers, there are food trucks who are kind of active. 2 food trucks, at least this summer, that are active.
Okay. All right.
Kind of, yeah.
Now at the Yummy Shawarma, great name, by the way. I looked it up, and you talked before to me off air about the high food prices in the area. And I looked it up, and a 2-topping 18-inch pizza is $52. Now that's Canadian, but still US, that's $39. I've got a deal for you. If you ever want to come down to Connecticut, I'll get you some of our world famous thin crust pizza, which I told you about. I'll probably save you $10 or $12, but $52 for a large 2-topping pizza. Oh my goodness. Food prices are also high up there, like grocery shopping, they're high prices.
Yes. Groceries, food, a lot of things in general are very high in prices. Like even before inflation started coming onto the scene, like especially in the winters, like a lot of the cargo in planes go, like there's no highways or anything, like can't really get access to place by sea in the winter. So like most of the essential goods in the winter especially are flown in by plane, and that kind of drives the price up like quite a lot. There was I think last month I was like at a store, and I noticed a 24 pack of bottles of water, and it was like $50 roughly. And with the food prices, you definitely learn.
$50 for a 24 pack of water.
So something that would cost, I think, what, $5 down south, or
probably
yeah. It was the cost of shipping and the associated markups just kind of drive a lot of the prices up.
And I'm gonna just pop up. There are a couple pictures that I looked at online. There's just some of the entry point signs in Iqaluit. Now this building here, is that a school?
Yes, that is actually the school that the Pope went to. He met with the elders inside that school, and the second outdoor set of stairs, that's where they built the set, where the sound stage, I suppose, where the Pope was speaking from. Okay. That whole parking lot was just full of people.
Here, that looks like the airport.
Yes, that is the Iqaluit airport. That's the I heard it's fairly new, like last 5-6 years, or don't quote me on that, but it's not an old building. Like there was an older yellow terminal, and I've been told by people who traveled through that old airport back in the day that was like quite crowded. So this is a lot more spacious and a lot nicer, I guess, compared to the old airport.
Okay, and one last one here. That's the church.
That's one of the churches. That's the Anglican church, I believe.
St. James.
Probably want to check that up, but yeah. But interesting shape. Like a lot of people kind of take pictures of that, like when they're in town.
Very interesting architecture and scenery there. Well, he is Trevor Wright, Iqaluit Bureau reporter for the weekly Nunavut News. If you'd like to take a look at some of his fine work, you can go online to nunavutnews.com and we'll pop that up on the screen also. And Trevor, thanks so much for being on the show.
And we're back, and it looks like it must have been laundry day during your interview because there's nothing really exciting to say about your shirt there, but Jonesy, what a guy. I mean, we've been really fortunate to have quality guests on this show, and he's no exception. You can just ask one thing and then just sit there and listen forever.
He was impressive. And for those that didn't know, he mentioned a little bit in the interview, his brother is Mark Jones of ESPN and ABC fame, and he actually did the first couple games of the NBA Finals last year between the Warriors and Celtics when Mike Breen was out with COVID, and I hear him every week doing a college game, but impressive. All right, my man, we are about to roll it up. So what do you got for a shout out?
Yeah, I got a couple, both fairly general. The first one, I just want to shout out my fellow Toronto Maple Leafs fans who are really hyped up for the season to get started, but know that come the end of the year, we're going to be let down just very gently on our face like every other year. And second one is a little more serious, just a shout out to all the people that were affected by Hurricane Fiona in Atlantic Canada. I know some people in PEI that their places got banged up a bit. And also, I do know a few people that are going through some pretty rough times down in Florida with the one that just went through as well. So thinking of everybody that I know that's been involved by both.
It is, just some of the devastation you see is amazing. Well, that's the end of episode 44 of Mick and T Sports Report. I'm Joe in New Haven.
And I'm Evan here, just pulling out all my winter clothes in St. Andrews.
And thanks to editor Florence Mitchell and CHCO-TV station manager Patrick, TJ, and/or JJ Watt. That was coming. Patrick and Florence do a great job of producing and editing a show that's more popular than a donair at Yummy Shawarma. Pulling jokes from everywhere. And now we've once again come to the end of the show because I am all about running a bad joke into the ground. We will leave you with peace, love, and yummy shawarma. Evan, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was nice and lazy.
This is Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO-TV, and we'll see you next time.